Hello, and welcome to your walk through Chagrin Falls. As you look downstream past the natural falls today, you can see a nicely situated restaurant and office buildings overlooking the Chagrin River. Had you been standing in the same spot 100 years ago, the view would have been a little different. Instead of restaurants and offices, you would have seen multiple mills on both sides of the river. Chagrin Falls is historically a mill town. Taking advantage of the power generated by the Chagrin River, Chagrin Falls was once home to 9 different dams. These dams were constructed to drive the machinery to build the products that a growing area needed. This hand-drawn aerial map of Chagrin Falls from 1883 shows many of those different dams. Let's explore them in more detail. Just as a frame of reference on this map, you are standing on top of the bridge overlooking the high falls. The first dam built on this section of the Chagrin River was located downstream from the bridge, where the river makes a bend near where Washington and Church Street meet today. This dam was built in 1834 by Chester Bushnell and was used to drive a sawmill that was constructed on the north side of the river. Sam Nettleton built a furnace on the south side in 1837. Soon after, the Williams family purchased the foundry. The Williams family owned the foundry here until 1892, when they moved to Ravenna, Ohio, where they are still in business today. The Williams foundry was very active in community affairs in Chagrin. The foundry was damaged by floods in 1876 and 1883, and by fires in 1889 and 1892. The foundry built sad irons, which were a predecessor to today's irons, and many cast iron items like toys and children's banks. The second dam built on the river was located near the intersections of Miles and Solon Roads, roughly right behind where Chagrin Pet Garden is today. We do not have a picture of this dam, but it was originally used to drive a grist mill built by John Woodward and Benjamin Carpenter in 1835. The mill was destroyed by a flood in 1841 and never rebuilt. The dam was also used to support a foundry and a machine shop owned by Cyrus Millard until the power was converted to steam. This machine shop changed hands multiple times and was destroyed by a fire in 1906. The third dam built on the river was built on top of the natural falls. It would have been located directly underneath where the west side sidewalk is on the Main Street Bridge today. The dam was built in 1836 by George Fenkel to power his grist mill. The grist mill was located just south of the current popcorn shop. The grist mill and the surrounding buildings on the south side of the river were demolished in 1931 to make room for the park that's there today. In addition to powering the grist mill, the dam also powered businesses on the north side of the river. Over the years, a planing mill, a shoe peg factory, and the Deer Lick Oil Stone Company were in business here. The Deer Lick Oilstone Company was organized by M.B. and Z.L. Kent in 1886. The first factory site was on the Deer Lick Creek near what is now known as Sulphur Springs in the Cleveland Metro Parks. As they prospered, they built a large facility near the intersection of Miles and River Roads. The company quarried and produced oilstones, razor hones, and other sharpening tools. They eventually moved the company into Chagrin Falls, refitting numerous buildings on River Street to handle their increasing production. One of those buildings was located on the site where the current restaurant 17 Grill is today. Here are some examples of the oilstones manufactured by the Deer Lick Oil Stone Company. The next dam to be built on the river was the one you see just east of the Main Street Bridge. It was built by Noah Graves in 1837 to power a sawmill. Mr. Graves added a paper mill in 1841. Multiple owners manufactured paper here until 1888. Over time, the paper mill became a planing mill owned by Joseph O'Malley, who built many homes in Chagrin Falls. The buildings then became home to automobile dealers and repair shops. The buildings were all demolished in 1931 to make room for Riverside Park. The fifth dam, erected on the Chagrin River, was built near where the current baseball field is on Solon Road. It was built in 1840. We do not have a picture of this dam. This mill was built by Eliezer Goodwin and used the dam to power machinery to provide woodworking such as turnings, joinery, and finished and dimensional lumber. The sixth mill was constructed in 1841, just north of the Cleveland Street Bridge. Aaron Bliss and John Mayhew built the dam and flour mill in 1841. The mill was changed over to a woolen mill just a few years later. In the mid-1840s, the mill was converted to a paper manufacturing mill. Damaged by floods and explosions during its many years, the mill continued to make paper products and bags until 2004. This mill grew into the biggest mill complex on the river. Over the years, it was the Adams Bag Factory, Chase Bag, and finally Ivex. The seventh dam was built in 1842 in what is now called Whitesburg Park. Hervé White built the original mill here in 1842. It was called the White Axe Factory, and it manufactured axe handles until into the 1860s. In 1870, Charles Force converted the mill into a woolen mill. He produced mostly dress material and window shades into the late 1870s. The factory complex included the mills, barns, and the White House, which stood on the property until it was burned down in 1968. Like many of the dams and mills along the river, it had its fair share of flood damage. The dam finally collapsed, and Whitesburg Park was created on this property. Just for reference, if you're familiar with Whitesburg, the current parking lot and the fish pond are located where the arrow is in this picture. The eighth dam was built on the Chagrin River in 1842. A mill was built on the dam by Curtis Bullard and Cornelius Northrop in 1842. The mill eventually became the Bullard and March Mill. The woodenware mill was on the south side of the river, and a woolen mill was on the north side. The woodenware mill made butter molds, receiving a patent for the machine that manufactured them at one time. They also produced rolling pins, potato mashers, steak pounders, butter prints, bowls, and other wood items. At one time, it was one of the leading manufacturers of these types of products in the United States. The mill was in business until 1895, when the demand for butter molds ceased. The location was idle until it was destroyed by the flood of 1913. Here's an example of some of the different butter molds that were made there. This beautiful and pastoral view of the Bullard Mill was painted by Archibald Willard sometime around 1910. It shows the Bullard Dam and Mill, and the old grist mill is visible in the background. The spire of the Federated Church is also in the background. Mr. Willard is best known for his Spirit of 76 painting, depicting 3 Revolutionary soldiers marching. Mr. Willard's father was a pastor in South Russell for a while. Obadiah and J.M. Bliss built the 9th dam on the Chagrin River, just a little south of the Woodward and Carpenter Dam in 1843. This dam was originally used to manufacture chairs, but was eventually converted to a woolen mill. It manufactured woolen products until 1853, when it was converted to a machine shop and foundry by Aidan Gaunt. The mill was in business at this location to at least 1879. Chagrin Falls has changed a lot since its industrial days. But it is kind of fun to imagine what it might have been like to have been back there in the day. Please enjoy your time in Chagrin Falls and keep an eye out for other informational stops along the way. And you're always welcome to visit us at chagrinhistorical.org or visit our historical museum at 87 East Washington Street for more information. Enjoy your walk and have a wonderful day.